The Minnesota Vikings get their first loss of the season against the Detroit Lions. We're going to be talking about everything that happened in this game, the reasons that we've seen this loss, and what the Vikings will need to do if they want to turn this around and get a big win on a short week against the Los Angeles Rams. We also have a lot of controversial decisions to talk about that the Vikings had chose to make in this game. Before we get into all of it here, make sure to hit the sub button. Brand new channel. We want to get you guys all of the Minnesota Vikings news, our favorite team, your guys' favorite team. We want to make sure that you don't miss a beat. So hit the sub button, join us here as we're going to be covering everything Minnesota Vikings related. Without any further ado, let's get to our first topic here, Griffin, which is going to be obviously the loss. And I think this is the big one that we're going to be talking about here today. A lot of things came out of this game. The Vikings looked good, but they were simply not good enough. There was a lot of positive, a bit of negative, but still, we've seen a very good Vikings team, but we know that they can play better than this. So what are your immediate thoughts on the game?
I thought that it was our second worst game that we've played this season, just behind the Jets game that we just barely got away out of by the skin of our teeth. And then we go into this game, and we had a solid first quarter. We took advantage of Dan Gamble, and then we just fell asleep in the second quarter. And then in the third quarter, we woke up a little bit, got things going in the fourth quarter, but by then, it was too little too late. And the thing that was the most frustrating is, even when it was too little too late, it seemed like for the Vikings, they still had the game in hand, and they could not seal the deal. The play calling in when they needed to seal the deal was horrible. They blitzed too much. There was a lot of things that they did right offensively. Justin Jefferson, he had a solid game. We had guys step up. Sam Darnold played a good bounce back game. Didn't play as bad as he did in the last game, and that was really nice to see. But there was a lot of things that went wrong for the Vikings, and they definitely need to fix it on a short week before we play the Rams.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as I mentioned, this is going to be a lot of kind of maneuvering until we have Thursday. As it's a short week, a lot of stuff to learn from this game and go into a Rams team that aren't the best in the NFL, but have a chance to be very, very good when they're on. Kyren Williams, Cooper Kupp, those guys are going to have to be kept aware in that game, but this game really had a big impact, I think, on what we're going to see next week. The Detroit Lions, arguably one of the best, if not the best team in the NFL right now, and the Vikings were able to keep up with them. And as you mentioned, a few things that they wanted to change, but looking at the offense here in this game, Sam Darnold was still on. Really, the only fault that he had in this game was the interception, which Brian Branch completely just read that like a book. You kind of expected him to do that. I don't want to say expected, but Brian Branch is a very good player. That was a bit underthrown. It would have been probably a bit surprising to me if that was not intercepted. So that was really the one fault that we had seen from Sam Darnold. The rushing side of things, Aaron Jones coming back into this game was questionable before, 93 yards on 14 carries, and we do have a report later to show that he was not 100%. So seeing this out of here from Aaron Jones, not healthy or not fully healthy, a lot of good signs to come as we progress further, and he starts to heal up. Sam Darnold also rushing for 4 carries, 39 yards. A lot of that coming from a very crunched pocket. Very surprised he could get out of there, and very happy he did, because we know how good and how deep that Lions defensive line is. So being able to escape that, get some positive yardage out of it, really can't complain about that. And the receiving, I don't have those here, but I think we know the big ones. The Justin Jefferson touchdown, nice diving play, absolutely. We know who he is. He knows who he is. Jordan Addison, 51-yard reception from Sam Darnold coming there in midfield. A lot of big plays. Jalen Naylor on the sideline. A lot of big plays that Sam Darnold was sort of gambling on, but really he knew what he was doing. It wasn't much of a gamble rather than going for the big plays that needed to be made at that time. So when we're looking at this was not a horrible game, but then we move on to the fourth quarter. The defense, everything that had to go with this was not the way we wanted to. I'm going to start this off, not the first quarter, but at the beginning, the fourth quarter, the first quarter, losing all 3 timeouts halfway through that quarter. I don't think you can do that. You can't risk that. 2 timeouts. We know the impact and how big this game was, and early on, you want to make sure you're making the right plays, but getting 2 timeouts, then challenging and losing the challenge. All 3 are gone by then. Thankfully, the Vikings didn't need to challenge anything. There was nothing really they needed to, but a timeout definitely could have been used at some point in the second quarter. So, Griffin, how did you feel about that? When we seen those timeouts go, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people reacting that this could be a very, very big mistake, and we got lucky, but it wasn't at the time, but it could have been a very big mistake for the Vikings come, beginning to the end of the second quarter.
Yeah, it definitely could have come back to bite us in the butt, definitely. But And this is going to sound weird to say, but thankfully Detroit is really good at killing clock, and we didn't even have to worry about that. We didn't even get a chance to get within sniffing distance of scoring before halftime. That was one of the things that was so frustrating about the game, is that the timeouts was one thing, but I think in retrospect of all the other things that went wrong in this game and all the other issues Minnesota had, the penalties, the horrible play calling, the bat on both sides of the ball, I think the timeouts was the least of our problems, and I think it didn't really hurt us in the first half. It was in the second half where the defense just really fell apart. And before I hop on a tangent of that, I think that it's just going to be one of those things that they really need to analyze going forward. I know they like to blitz, but we got to rethink some things here, guys. We got to be a little bit more conservative in situations.
Yeah, the defense did blitz quite a bit, and more than we've seen all season. This was pretty reminiscent of what we seen last season with the Brian Flores defense, the blitzing style, but we did have many opportunities as well where we were great in coverage, great in man, great in zone, and really just keeping the ball where, the most uncomfortable, I guess we could say, Jared Goff is with it, although there really is no uncomfortable spot for Jared Goff with the ball. He's very good at placing that wherever, but one thing that I really saw and really frustrated me this game was the consistent first down passes of, 8 to 10 yards to Amonra, to Khalif Raymond, to really anybody who was open at the point. They were giving them too many opportunities rather than just going for the ball. They were defending the deep play just a bit too much for my liking. There was no in between. There was really no, I don't know. I don't even know the way to put it. It's just, we've seen the way that Brian Flores was able to make this defense work, but then we also seen times where it really didn't, and there was really no in between to make up some plays where we could see something, even out on this defense against the Detroit Lions. So, Griffen, I know that you weren't too happy with the defense here in the fourth quarter. So what did you think about it? What did you see in the fourth quarter that really kind of set us back in this game?
I thought the fourth quarter defensively was just abysmal. I thought that what we had talked about earlier this week, throughout the entire week, we talked about how much was Brian Flores going to blitz. Was he going to keep going to that well? We knew that this Detroit Lions offensive line was going to be stellar. We know that Jared Goff is not only deadly accurate, but he's also great against the blitz, and a lot of that is thanks to that stellar offensive line that the Detroit Lions have. I'm not going to take a knock on them there. It's no doubt that they have one of the best lines in football, and they have one of the most utilized offensive lines in football. So when that wasn't happening, yes, we came away with 4 sacks. Some of them were in big moments. We came very close to some strips here and there. But for the most part, Jared Goff was really, really comfortable in that pocket. So what does that mean? You're blitzing all these times, and no one's even getting close to getting home and getting a sack or getting a turnover, except for a very few occasions. There was 4 sacks and a few other opportunities. But other than that, it wasn't happening. So, like we had said, the amount of times that they're going to blitz, it's always going to leave someone open either underneath or over the top, whether it's Sam Laporta or Amon-Ra St. Brown, or even Khalif Raymond of all people, who did score a touchdown. And then you take into consideration that when you're doing these blitzing, you have Jahmyr Gibbs in that backfield who just got wide open on a wheel route when there was 2 minutes left in the game with the game on the line, and they let that happen. They let him just walk right, not only for the first down, but for a massive gain, just like they let him walk into the end zone for his rushing touchdown. And it was, the red zone defense was a whole other dilemma entirely, where they just seemingly let the Detroit Lions score. The Khalif Raymond touchdown, the Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown, and then Montgomery fumbling the ball. Yes, that was an amazing opportunity for us, but then it meant that Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be on the field the rest of the game. And that led to exactly what happened. That wide open wheel route that Minnesota did not account for because they had too many guys rushing, trying to get a sack, getting too cocky, going back to that blitz well over and over and over, just hoping that something was going to happen in the big moment. And this is coming off of a horrible, horrible offensive series where Minnesota had a chance to put the game away with just over 2.5 minutes left. All they had to do was get a first down and then just kill the clock out, and they failed to do it, and that was super frustrating. And I just got to stop right there, unless I'm just gonna freak out at that point. But yeah, it was just horrible to watch.
No, a lot of Vikings fans are thinking that right now, and there is just a lot of stuff to work on. And the rest of the game, I guess we could say, was not the most positive, but it definitely was something that we could take away in a positive note. There was definitely a lot of things, as Kevin O'Connell had said, that needs to be cleaned up. A lot of stuff that will be worked on ahead of the game on Thursday against the Rams. But we do have another screenshot here looking at this, and, we might not want to hear this right now, and this is a very good kind of thing to take away after this horrible loss, but we're 5-1. The one loss was 2 points against a legit Super Bowl contender, And we just need to relax. We knew this was going to be a very tight game. There was no way that this was going to be an absolute blowout or a low-scoring game. It never is. The Vikings and the Lions always play at an absolute ridiculous pace. They're always going for things, like crazy things. Dan Campbell, Kevin O'Connell, two of the best probably head coaches right now in the NFL, or amongst those group of coaches. So we got to be happy with what we've seen, but we can't be too happy with how this worked out. We want to see this team continue to excel, continue to improve. Even if they're playing good, it's still not good enough. We need to win these games, especially against the Detroit Lions, the Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears, the NFC North. We want to see these games become a win. And that's one thing that I think the Vikings are really going to have to lock into in the upcoming games for the rest of the season, is get those specific wins more than the other wins. And you want them all, but you need those at 110% rather than just 100%. So I think that this game ultimately could have been a lot worse. There was a lot of things that we could have kind of strayed away from, a lot of things we could have kind of went to, but we've seen some pretty positive stuff to take away from this. And here's what kind of my initial thoughts as well, exactly as Will Raggets had to say here. The thoughts that the frustrating loss is because it's winnable, but the Vikings should be fine. The Lions might have the league's best offense, and Darnold was solid outside of the pick, obviously, which just was a nice play. Got to bounce back in a short week against LA in 4 days and find a way to get to 6-1. And now with the upcoming schedule for the Vikings as well, we do see quite a bit of action that we could and we know we should win. A lot of games that the Vikings definitely have a clear advantage, but we just can't let this game get to us here on this play and on this game for the upcoming games. And one final thing as well here before we get to our quotes from the post-game press conferences is the ending play, the sack that Sam Darnold took in the end of this game on the Hail Mary attempt, ultimately was obviously the worst play possible at that point. This is what Kevin O'Connell had to say about that final play. He said, they would have given Will Reichard a shot at the 68-yard field goal if it weren't for that penalty. Instead, they opted for the Hail Mary rather than the 73-yard try. Now, in my personal opinion, I would have let Will Reichard go for this anyways. I know this kid is special. He has an insane leg. 73 is an absolutely ridiculous kick. But we know how good that Detroit defense is. We really shouldn't have gone for the Hail Mary solely because it was not going to work. It really was not going to work. The pressure was there. The blitz was visibly there, and they let them walk by. And I know, Griffen, we were talking about this before we hit record. What do you think about this? And do you think that we should have let Will Reichard kick this 73-yard try?
100% we should have. I think this kid has just been rolling. He has gotten the confidence of the team. I could just imagine how crazy US Bank Stadium would have gone if he would have kicked that through. 73-yarder would have been huge. 68-yarder, I definitely would have been okay with them throwing that at 73. Would have been a bit of a gamble, but again, like you said, on a Hail Mary, that's so unlikely. Instead of just having to buy time, throw it up and hope 18 or somebody can get it, that's a big gamble to take, especially when literally I was with the person that I was watching the game with. I saw those two blitzers coming, and I go, here comes the blitz. They're not going to stop it. And they literally let him walk right in there unprotected. It was horrible, horrible pass protection when you literally saw the play coming. No adjustment made. When, yes, if they had gone for the 73-yarder, you don't get it. It was a 73-yarder. But again, like you said, I think their chances were a lot better at hitting a 73-yarder than throwing a Hail Mary like that, especially when the blitz was coming and they just did not have the linemen to account for that.
Yeah, Griffen, I don't know what I would have done if he had hit a 73-yarder. I probably would have jumped out the window of my house. I was standing up watching this. I was looking at it. I was hoping. I seen the two blitzers come in. I was like, we needed a Will Reichard on that play. But, there was a lot of stuff to take away from this game. This is one that I think probably could have been an absolute highlight for the ages and changed the game of football with the field goal if this had gone in. But we're going to head on to our press conference quotes here. This is the first one from Will Raggets, what Kevin O'Connell says. There are a lot of areas the Vikings can improve upon. He's proud of how they battled, but noted that they had to be better in the little things against a great team. And this is really what we've been discussing the entire video, was that, yes, the Vikings played okay. They were not a bad game against a very, very good team, Super Bowl contender, but we could have played better. And the fact that we knew we could have won this game, we could have came out here, we could have got this game, go to 6-0, beat a divisional rival in the Detroit Lions, it just stings a little bit more than every other team that we could have lost to, even if it was the Packers or the Bears. It had to be the Lions in this case, of course, just because of the Vikings' luck, but we got to win, and we got to get our redemption in Week 18 against the Lions. We need to get at least one win and show them that they're not getting this far this easy. And we're going to move on to the another quote what we have here from this one. Once again, from Kevin O'Connell, this via Alec Lewis, said the running back Aaron Jones was not 100%, but praised Jones and the training staff for his commitment to recovering from that hamstring and from the time he touched down from London. So this is what we mentioned earlier as well, Griffen. What do you think about a very interesting one that we see, that Aaron Jones was not 100% healthy and still put up 93 yards in this game?
As the Aaron Jones thing, if he's not 100%, it's going to be very, very scary to see what he does when he is at 100%, because he had his second best game of the season today and he wasn't at 100%. So that bodes well of seeing what more he's able to do with this Vikings team. They have an amazing medical and training staff that have done working their butts off to just make sure he's back on the field. They made sure that was possible coming out of the bye week when it was very questionable, and he was even a risky fantasy play for a lot of people. He was on my team, but I made sure I rolled with him. I had faith because I knew that at home he was going to do something. And right in the first quarter, in the first possession, he just did exactly that. So I think he's going to be getting even healthier and just getting stronger and stronger as we progress and into this Rams week. It will be a short week, but I think he's going to be able to bounce back and hopefully have an even better game, maybe his best game of the season. But as far as the Kevin O'Connell stuff goes, yes, there's a lot of areas they have to look at. The first of which I think is Kevin O'Connell just taking a look at himself in the mirror and saying, how can I be a better play caller offensively? How can I make sure that when we have the game in hand or we control our destiny on offense, how can I make sure that we seal that game and not make sure that we give our fans a heart attack or just literally let the opposing team walk down the field and kick a walk-off field goal, or with leaving us with no time left on the clock? That was exactly what happened today.
Yeah, no, all of which we're okay to see, but we still want to see better, especially what we're going to be looking at and next week against the Rams. And hopefully, even if Aaron Jones is still not fully 100%, we will hopefully have TJ Hawkinson back, giving him a bit more leeway to not be the immediate need for something short, a short pass or anything like that. So hopefully we see a fully healthy Vikings team come Thursday. A short week's definitely going to mean we're going to see some guys on the injury report, but hopefully it's just precautionary, some fixes, some maintenance days. But with our final quote here of the video, and the final one really of a pretty short media press conference for the post game, is what Sam Darnold had to say. He said, "A tough loss. I still feel like operationally we can get better. Some missed opportunities out there." And Sam Darnold, once again, being a leader on this team, really calling a spade and saying that they need to be better and they know they can be better. And they have a lot more time that will be great to see this team become a brand new Vikings. I'm still seeing that this team is not at 100% yet. And I'm still seeing that this team has so much more to give for the fans, for the season, and really make this playoff push, hopefully, a lot better than what people were thinking initially in this season. So, Griffen, do you got any final thoughts before we finish this video off?
I'm happy that we got out of the week without any injuries. There was no casualties. That was awesome. We didn't get the win. I at least knew going into this game that we were probably going to lose. I was just hoping that I was going to be proven wrong. But you prepare yourself for the worst and hope for the best. That's what happened today. It sucks to see that we had to get our first loss like this, because these division games are basically like a game and a half basically instead of just one game. So you want to win them because they're so critical. And I would rather have lost to the Rams on Thursday if it meant that we had won today. But again, we can't change the score. It's just on to the next week. It's a short week. We just have to go into this week against the Rams, just make sure that we dominate, play angry, play hungry, and beat the crap out of them.
Yeah, the Vikings move to second in the NFC North. Lions move up. They're both tied in the standings now. So the Vikings need to come out hotter than they ever have so far this season. But that's all we got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button. Like I said, Vikings news for all of you guys. Don't miss a beat. Hit the sub button. Join us here so you don't miss out on anything. But that's all we got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.